On a cold December night in 2009, a young girl went to sleep believing she was safe. Outside, snow fell quietly. Inside, a family prepared for Christmas. By morning, everything would be changed forever. This is the story of Sarah Foxwell. A case that shocked an entire state. A crime that exposed devastating failures. And a name that would later change the law itself. Sarah Haley Foxwell was 11 years old. She lived in Salisbury, Maryland, surrounded by a large and loving family. 9 children in total, with Sarah right in the middle. She was the peacemaker, the hugger, the one who smiled even when things were hard. Her family called her Haley Bug. As she grew older, she insisted on being called Sarah. But to those who loved her, she would always be Haley Bug. Life was not easy for the Foxwells. Sarah's mother, Jennifer, was a single parent doing everything she could to provide for her children. Money was tight. Hours were long. To make ends meet, Jennifer worked overtime. During that time, Sarah and her siblings stayed with Jennifer's father and her sister Amy in a converted barn house. It was temporary. It was imperfect, but it was supposed to be safe. December 22, 2009. The temperature dropped below freezing. Snow covered the ground. A white Christmas was coming. That evening felt ordinary. Pizza for dinner. Children laughing. Running through the house. Around 9 o'clock, Sarah walked down the hallway with her 6-year-old sister Emma. They shared a room at the end of the hall, right next to the back door. They climbed into bed. No one knew this would be the last normal moment of Sarah's life. Hours later, while the house slept, something unimaginable happened. The doors were locked. The windows were closed. There was no forced entry. Still, someone came inside. Quietly. Deliberately. At 3:30 in the morning, Jennifer woke up with a sick feeling. Sarah wasn't there. Her shoes were still inside the house. Her jacket was untouched. Outside, the snow showed no small footprints. The temperature was 25 degrees. Nothing made sense. Jennifer knew instantly. Something was terribly wrong. Police were called immediately. Within minutes, deputies flooded the property. Every room was searched. Every door checked. The house offered no answers, except for one detail. When officers tested the back door, it opened easily. No damage, no struggle, just unlocked. Then came another detail that stopped everyone cold. Sarah's green toothbrush was missing from the bathroom. She hadn't gone anywhere willingly, and the family dog had not barked. Not once. As panic spread through the house, Sarah's Aunt Amy remembered something. A spare key, hidden outside for emergencies. When they checked, the key was gone. At that moment, hope turned into fear. This was not an accident. Sarah had been taken. An Amber Alert was issued statewide. Police understood what this meant. Whoever took Sarah knew the house, knew the routine, knew exactly where she slept. This was not random. Then came the moment that broke everyone's hearts. 6-year-old Emma spoke. She had been awake. She had pretended to sleep. And she had seen everything. She quietly told her grandmother that she knew who took Sarah. She said a name she recognized, a name she trusted. The nightmare became real. In the next part of this case file, we will uncover who that man was. A predator hiding in plain sight. A criminal the system had already failed to stop. And how one small voice helped expose the truth. By sunrise, police already knew something terrifying. Sarah Foxwell had not been taken by a stranger. She had been taken by someone who knew her. someone who knew the house, someone who had been allowed into their lives. That man's name was Richard Thomas Thompson. Richard Thompson was not a mystery to law enforcement. In fact, he was well known. Too well known. He was a convicted sex offender with a long, disturbing criminal history, and he should never have been anywhere near Sarah Foxwell. Thompson was dating Sarah's aunt, Amy. He spent time around the family, around the children, around Sarah. Everyone thought he had changed. Everyone was wrong. Years earlier, Thompson had been convicted of sexually assaulting a child. Not once, more than once. He had served prison time. He had violated parole. He had failed treatment programs. Still, he was released back into society. Again and again. The system believed he could be managed. The Foxwell family believed he could be trusted. Sarah paid the price. When police brought Thompson in for questioning, they noticed things immediately. Scratches on his arms, injuries on his body, and a nervous demeanor. He claimed he had no idea what happened to Sarah, but the evidence said otherwise. Investigators searched his truck. Inside they found disturbing items: a plastic bag, a knife, rope, and worst of all, traces of Sarah. While Thompson was being questioned, search teams worked non-stop. Helicopters scanned fields. Volunteers walked frozen ground. Dogs tracked scent trails that vanished into nothing. The weather fought against them. The clock worked against them. And deep down, everyone knew time was running out. Then Thompson cracked. He led police to a wooded area near Parsonsburg, Maryland. A quiet place, hidden from view. There, investigators found Sarah. She had been sexually assaulted. She had been brutally murdered. Her life was stolen by someone who never should have been free. The news shattered the community. An 11-year-old girl, taken from her bed, by someone the system already knew was dangerous. As details emerged, public anger exploded. People asked the same question again and again. How was this allowed to happen? Records showed Thompson had been flagged repeatedly as a high-risk offender. Psychologists warned he could not be rehabilitated. Probation violations were ignored. Release decisions were made anyway. The warning signs were everywhere, and no one stopped him. For Sarah's family, the pain was unbearable. There were no words, no explanations that mattered, only loss. At Thompson's trial, the evidence was overwhelming. DNA, witness testimony, his own confession. He pleaded guilty. The judge sentenced Richard Thompson to life in prison without parole. He would never walk free again. But justice came far too late. Sarah's death sparked outrage across Maryland. Lawmakers faced intense pressure. Parents demanded change. And one question hung over everything. How many warnings does it take before a system acts? Out of tragedy, something powerful emerged. A new law, named after Sarah Foxwell. In the next part of this case file, we will examine the impact of Sarah's law, how it changed sentencing for violent offenders, and why her story still matters today. Sarah Foxwell's life ended violently, but her story did not end there. What happened next would change laws, reshape public policy, and expose the failures of an entire system. In the days following Sarah's murder, grief turned into outrage. Parents across Maryland were afraid. Communities demanded answers. And officials could no longer avoid the truth. Richard Thompson was not a mistake. He was a warning that had been ignored. Court documents revealed a shocking pattern. Thompson had been labeled dangerous multiple times. Psychiatrists described him as a high risk to reoffend. Probation officers reported repeated violations. Judges were warned. Release boards were warned. Still, he was released. Sarah's murder forced lawmakers to confront a reality they could no longer deny. Some offenders cannot be rehabilitated. Some warnings cannot be ignored. And some mistakes cost innocent lives. Public pressure intensified. Parents spoke out. Victims' advocates demanded reform. And Sarah's name became a symbol of systemic failure. Out of this pressure, legislation was drafted. It became known as Sarah's Law. Sarah's Law gave judges greater power. It allowed courts to impose longer sentences on repeat violent offenders. It focused on past behavior, not hopeful predictions. And it acknowledged something uncomfortable. Some offenders remain dangerous forever. The law aimed to close the gap that allowed Thompson to walk free. It focused on accountability, on prevention, on stopping known threats before another child was harmed. Sarah's family supported the law, not because it could bring her back, but because it might save someone else. Her mother became an advocate, speaking publicly, sharing Sarah's story, turning unbearable grief into action. Sarah's Law passed, but questions remained. Would it be enough? Would the system truly change? Or would warnings once again be ignored? Cases like Sarah's forced the justice system to face its limits. Rehabilitation does not always work. Risk assessments are not guarantees, and trusting the wrong person can be fatal. Sarah Foxwell became more than a victim. She became a name written into law, a reminder of responsibility, a warning to never ignore history. Today, Richard Thompson remains in prison, where he will stay for the rest of his life. But Sarah's absence is permanent. An empty chair, a missing future, a life that should still be unfolding. This case is not just about one crime. It is about failure, about trust, and about the price of ignoring what we already know. The question remains, if the warnings had been taken seriously, would Sarah still be alive? Some mysteries end with answers. Others leave us with responsibility. This has been a Mysteries Case File. The Murder of Sarah Foxwell. A story that changed the law. And a reminder that prevention is the only justice that truly saves lives.